Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today is November 20th, 2025, and this isn't really a scheduled deep dive. This feels more like, I don't know, necessary emotional triage.
That's a good way to put it. The whole planned narrative has it's collapsed.
It really has. We're here right now because if you were with us for the end of the last deep dive, episode 67, you heard it happen live.
The exact moment our entire conversation just stopped.
Yeah, that file folder just appeared on our system, titled Mercy's Return.
And right next to it, the Angels and Demons file that people have been whispering about for months.
That was less than a week ago. And honestly, it feels like we've spent every single second since then just living inside that raw audio.
We had a whole calendar planned out. We were ready for the big theatrical run.
Exactly. The rage of Bipolar Scorpio that's supposed to land in just 2 days, November 22nd.
And then the big surrender, 11 Dreams, slated for the 29th. We were ready to analyze the grand finale, the planned exit.
But the internet, or, I don't know, fate, maybe, it decided D.L.B's final statement wouldn't be controlled by a calendar.
Or by the label.
Not at all. And this leak, these 6 tracks from Mercy's Return plus the cover art, this doesn't feel like an album.
No, it feels like a confession.
Yes, the true, unedited late-night confession he recorded when he was absolutely positive that the studio lights were off and no one was listening.
So we have to approach this as like an archive of a collapse. This is his psychological inventory.
Taken after everything else was supposedly done.
Right. If Bipolar Scorpio is the rage he planned for the world, and 11 Dreams is the archive he needed to release.
Then Mercy's Return is the moment the architect, Daniel Bates, walked away from the mixing board.
And D.L.B., the exhausted, isolated human being, just picked up the microphone. It's unfiltered, it's raw, it's really painful stuff.
It is, and because of the intense nature of what we've been listening to, we have to stop right here. We need to put a crucial health disclaimer out right now.
Immediately.
Yeah.
The themes that D.L.B. is talking about here, they aren't metaphors.
Not at all. It's direct documentation of a mental health crisis. Tracks like Tired and Missed Calls, Unsent Texts, they go so deep into loneliness, exhaustion, and self-harm ideation.
The lyrics are visceral. I mean, we're talking about direct quotes.
Direct quotes like, I had a night where the pills looked friendly on the sink, or his admission of wanting to cut my own throat if he has to stay engaged with the public.
This is art, but it's art documenting a genuine life or death struggle.
Yes. So if you're listening to this and any of these feelings are resonating with you, if you, or if anyone you know, is struggling with thoughts of self-harm, or that kind of profound isolation,
please reach out to professional resources immediately.
D.L.B. is using his art to process a crisis, but art is never, ever a substitute for professional help. We really urge you to prioritize your own mental health and safety, especially when you're engaging with media that's this vulnerable.
Please do.
Okay, so let's try and unpack this. We've got 6 tracks. They map out this whole emotional journey, this descent and acceptance, and then this, like, final defiant reclamation.
And it's all anchored by one single piece of visual art that has already set the fandom. I mean, especially Reddit and Tumblr.
No, it's on absolute fire.
Total fire. The cover art.
Let's start there. The visual blueprint.
It is the blueprint for this whole emotional landscape. And what's so striking about it, so different, is the total lack of complexity.
Yeah, there's no metaphor.
None.
Yeah.
You know, D.L.B. is famous for burying his meaning under like 5 layers of historical references or these oblique symbols. This cover, it's just shockingly direct.
It really is. It's almost confrontational in its clarity. You just see 2 figures, identical posture, identical structure, but complete opposites.
And they are frozen just inches from a kiss.
On the left, you have this ethereal angel, all white and gold. It's obviously salvation, healing, you know, the mercy from the title.
And on the right, this glistening red demon. Horns, black wings, scales, the whole thing. It's vice, rage, self-sabotage.
The trauma cycle.
The trauma cycle he has spent his entire career feeding and running from and, well, monetizing.
And the conversation online, especially on the subreddits and the Discord servers, it's all focused on that one thing.
That fraction of an inch.
That tiny bit of space between their lips. It's the ultimate cliffhanger, isn't it? What happens next? Is this resolution or is this the end?
That space is the central tension of the entire EP. And right now you've got two very active competing interpretations blowing up online.
Okay, what's the first one? The hopeful one.
The hopeful one, yeah. The one a lot of people are clinging to, maybe just out of sheer exhaustion with the drama.
I get that.
They're saying it's about integration. The angel and the demon aren't about to fight. They're about to merge.
So can D.L.B. finally find some kind of peace, a fragile peace where both sides can coexist?
Can he become messy and whole? Accept his capacity for rage, but also his desperate need for healing? That would be a huge breakthrough.
I have to say, the darker take, the one that's really dominating the Tumblr threads right now.
The consensus,
It suggests consumption. You look at the demon's posture. It seems dominant, predatory almost.
So is the rage finally winning? Is the demon about to just swallow the angel whole?
And confirm everyone's worst fears. That this whole year, this whole public farewell tour, it wasn't an exit strategy. It was a prelude to a final catastrophic collapse.
And the ambiguity of that fraction of an inch. That's what defines the state of mind in these 6 tracks.
He's not fighting for a victory.
No, it's a state of suspended animation. It's what we're calling the purgatory state, the waiting room for the soul.
He can't commit to salvation or damnation.
Exactly. It perfectly captures that internal civil war he's waging. He is trapped in the moment right before the decision, probably hoping it lasts forever because the outcome on either side is, it's terrifying.
And the lyrics themselves. Especially in Truth Kept, he says it. He confirms he's living in a haunted hallway. It's not about finding heaven or hell. It's just about acknowledging you're stuck on the threshold.
Which tells you right away that this isn't some grand external conflict. This is purely internal. The war is happening inside one person.
And to figure out if that kiss is integration or consumption, we have to look at the sound.
Exactly. The production architects here, they didn't just build tracks, they built a bunker for his consciousness.
Okay, let's go there. The sonic environment.
Yeah.
Because this EP feels so small.
It's incredibly intimate.
And unpolished. I mean, it is absolutely built for headphones.
Yeah.
Designed to be consumed alone at high volume.
It literally sounds like you're overhearing a conversation at 3 a.m. through a thin wall.
And that intimacy is achieved by these very specific, very isolated deployments of the 11SIX core production team.
That sound design is the foundation for the whole confession. It makes you, the listener, complicit. The 3 main players, DJ Rivyr, Hustle Harmonics, and Joyans, they collaborate to create the sound of just total, unavoidable isolation.
Let's start with DJ Rivyr, River Simone Lawson. She's a foundational co-architect of that whole 11SX sound.
We know her work so well. Chill trap, electronic R&B, it's all about rhythm and emotion.
And she's credited on the 2 tracks that really document the exhaustion, Tired, and Numb Acceptance.
Rivyr's signature sound is usually this drum-driven emotional bounce, right? Something you can sway to, a beat that carries the weight but doesn't crush you.
But here, she completely transforms it. On Tired, the rhythm is so heady, it's relentless, almost punitive.
It's not an invitation to dance, it's a mandatory pulse.
That phrase, mandatory pulse, that really lands. Can you break that down? For people who haven't heard the leaks yet, what does auditory exhaustion sound like?
You build it by taking away all the joy. You remove the syncopation, the swing. The kick drum is way too loud, too present. It's like a heartbeat, but it's irregular.
The bass line feels like it's just stuck to the floor.
Exactly. And the absence of her usual bright hi-hats is so telling. It's a rhythmic environment that's designed to symbolize a reluctant heartbeat that is just compelled to keep going despite this profound fatigue.
It's survival by inertia.
It is. It reinforces that whole idea that D.L.B. is running on fumes. The machine is still ticking, but the soul has, left the building.
It's the musical equivalent of walking in cement boots. Then you've got Hustle Harmonics,
the main production brand, known for their lo-fi textures and that signature dark warmth. D.L.B. himself, Mikanami, Jihei Seo, they're all in there.
and they create the cage.
They excel at creating the sonic cage. On missed calls, unsent texts, their dark warmth makes the whole environment feel so claustrophobic.
How do they do that?
They use extreme sonic compression and they mic the vocals incredibly close. It gives you the sensation of being trapped inside his skull, watching his paralysis unfold in real time.
And the lo-fi texture makes it feel so immediate, like you're reading a draft text message on a cracked screen.
There's no polish. There's no sonic comfort to give you any distance. The intimacy is just, it's suffocating.
The genius of that is that it forces empathy. You're not listening to D.L.B., you're listening with him. You're feeling that internal pressure that stops him from ever hitting send.
Yes. And the lack of high-end clarity, it mimics the mental fog of depression. Every word sounds a little bit muffled, like the energy to just speak is physically exhausting him.
And finally, we've got Joyeon's Yuna from K1A
She brings her reputation for soft emotional composition, that soul-felt tag.
to the rage-fueled track Saint. Which, when I first saw her credit there, I thought it had to be a mistake. How do you mix delicate composition with that kind of raw aggression?
And that is the ultimate stroke of genius on this production roster. Joyeon's melodic engineering isn't there to support the rage.
It's a constraint, a commentary.
It is. She provides this delicate, almost soulful backdrop, a mournful, quiet synth melody that runs completely counter to what he's screaming in the lyrics.
So the sound stops the anger from just becoming destructive.
It reframes the anger. Instead of just brute force aggression, it turns the rage in Saint into a mournful cry for help.
The softness of the music makes the critique land with vulnerability, not just force.
Right. It stops you from just dismissing it as a tantrum, and it forces you to hear the pain behind the indictment. It's the sound of a deep injury finding its voice, but through this filtered lens of exhaustion.
Which makes perfect sense. The sonic landscape proves that the exhaustion in Tired is the foundation for the rage in Saint.
Okay, let's do it. Let's jump into the core of the leak, the track-by-track descent, starting right where the fatigue hits the hardest. Track 01, Tired.
The vocal tone is everything here. It's the immediate indicator of collapse. He's not singing. It's depleted, almost mumbled. You hear it in the very first line. I've been living off fumes, thoughts heavy as bricks.
This isn't just, existential weariness. This is exhaustion documented physically, psychologically, and rhythmically thanks to that RIVYR beat.
This track is D.L.B. performing the autopsy on his own life.
While he's still living it. And the concept that anchors this entire thing is what we're calling the pain economy.
The pain economy.
He sees his struggle not as some temporary state to be cured, but as his structural currency. He says it so devastatingly. I've been sleeping on pain like it paying the rent.
Okay, that line is so crucial. We have to sit with the psychological implication of that for a second. If pain pays the rent, if his struggle is his currency, what happens if he finds peace?
He becomes emotionally bankrupt.
Right.
His entire artistic persona, his connection to his audience, his work ethic, it's all built on this narrative of the wounded, struggling genius. If the struggle ends, does the genius end too?
And that conditioning leads to the most profound line in the whole song. His fear of stability.
I ain't scared of death. I'm scared of luck.
He fears luck because luck is random. It's unstable. It threatens the painful but reliable structure he's built his life on. Pain is predictable. It gives him material.
Luck and peace are threats. They demand a whole new identity, one he clearly feels totally unequipped to build. He is terrified of losing the foundation his own struggle built for him.
And to keep that foundation secure, he has to maintain this public persona, what he calls the script and the stunt.
He just admits to the performance, if I say I'm fine, that's a script I read, I've been breaking in the dark, treating a stunt instead.
The energy he's diverting just to project competence is energy he doesn't have. He's living off fumes. It's the ultimate indictment of fame, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Got to be successful in public and pay for it in private. He has to stunt to keep the facade of the successful artist D.L.B. alive, even as Daniel Bates is just breaking in the dark.
The performance is a survival strategy, but it requires the total denial of his true self.
And this intense isolation, this distrust of the world, which he thinks only wants the stunned, it leads him to turn to non-existence for comfort.
This is the moment in the chorus where he's speaking to the void. He admits it. If the world don't hear me, that's fine enough. I've been speaking to the void because the void show love.
The void showing love. That is just a devastating concept.
It is, because the void is passive. It's accepting. It asks for nothing from him.
It's the total opposite of the consuming audience, which is constantly demanding his pain, his performance, his energy.
The void offers him the only unconditional love, the absence of demand that he can currently accept. This just reveals the radical isolation of profound fatigue. He's seeking solace in nothingness because existence is only defined by transactional relationships.
And that paralysis from Tired leads you directly into the core emotional devastation of the next track.
Track 02, Missed Calls, Unsent Texts.
This track, from Hustle Harmonics and featuring Murray Lux. This is the ultimate document of digital regret. It's the tragedy of self-censorship, where the entire crisis happens inside his phone screen.
And Murray Lux's chorus just encapsulates the entire thesis with perfect economy.
Then my heart lived and died in the messages I never hit send.
The drafts folder in his phone. It's not just an archive of incomplete thoughts. It becomes a collection of Coffins for Truth.
Coffins for Truth. Still.
Containing all the desperate confessions and calls for help he was too paralyzed or too guilt-ridden to actually send.
And verse 1 details that paralysis perfectly. The physical action of it. Writing a paragraph, reading it back, backspacing every single line.
Turning the desperate, I'm not okay, into the dismissive, I'm good, never mind.
It's an internal battle he loses every single time. He spends more energy censoring the cry for help than it would take to actually send it.
But the peak of the track is verse 2, the crisis visualization. This is the moment where you are truly trapped inside his skull.
He paints the scene with chilling precision.
I had a night where the pills looked friendly on the sink. This immediate, raw acknowledgement of the impulse.
And then he acknowledges the survival instinct, right? The impulse to call someone who cares. His finger is hovering over the contact name.
And then the fatal paralysis sets in. He chooses silence. Not because he doesn't have love or connection, but because he sees his own crisis as an unfair burden on the other person.
He says, so chillingly. But I told myself, don't bother her, that ain't fair.
That line is so psychologically complex, it's heartbreaking. He views his deepest, most urgent need for help as an unfair disturbance to someone else's peace.
He would rather sink into isolation and potential self-harm than risk bothering her.
He prioritizes politeness and self-inflicted isolation over disturbing someone else's life, which leads, of course, to him deleting that desperate message, I'm tired, I don't want to breathe.
Okay, but I have to challenge that motivation a little bit.
Yeah.
Is he really protecting her peace, or is that just self-sabotage wrapped up in a cloak of altruism?
That's an excellent point.
It sounds like an excuse to maintain the isolation that Tired already established. If he connects, he has to change. If he sends that text, the stunt is over.
It's the internal narrative that justifies the external withdrawal. Whether it's genuine protection or a defense mechanism against vulnerability, the result is the same: profound, self-inflicted isolation. He's convinced himself his pain is radioactive and it has to be contained.
And the final layer of this tragedy is his fear of his legacy of silence in the third verse. He's thinking about his own departure and realizing people won't find the truth in the superficial activity logs.
The light on calls, little on texts.
Because the threads look wrong. They'll see an incomplete picture, a ghost of the man who existed.
His entire truth, his struggle, his soul, is trapped in those unsent drafts. He concludes with an absolute reframing of his entire career.
You'll find more truth in what I couldn't bring myself to send.
So if his entire musical output is truth documentation, his personal life, captured in that drafts folder, was a massive archive of undelivered and therefore lost confessions. The silence is the loudest statement he makes.
The EP then takes us to a post-crisis evaluation.
Track 03, Truth Kept, featuring Miss Neve, again produced by DJ Rewire.
And the tone shifts here. It's not the paralysis of missed calls. It's a brutal, almost cold honesty. He's not fighting the crisis anymore. He's just assessing the damage.
This is D.L.B. living explicitly in that purgatory state we talked about earlier. It's the acknowledgement of stagnation.
He's not healed, he's honest.
He says it. I ain't healed, I'm honest. I've been living in a room where the walls feel haunted. This isn't progress. It's the recognition and acceptance of how severe his long-term condition really is.
And the title, Truth Kept, that immediately points to the most haunting presence in his recent history.
The shadow of his past relationship with Mercedes Mercy Diamond.
Miss Neve, in her feature, sings about him carrying her shadow where the cold wind blows. It suggests she's just always there, tied to his trauma.
This isn't just a breakup song, though. It's a deep dive into trauma and attachment. He is dissecting the psychological debt he's still carrying.
He breaks down the complexity of loving when trauma is your operating system.
When you love with trauma, you overattach. And I've been carrying weight that don't love back.
The weight isn't the person, Mercy.
No, the weight is the attachment to the pain she either represented or relieved. And that attachment is the emotional anchor that just refuses to let go.
It's the idea that the wound, not the healing, dictates the whole relationship. But here's my question, connecting it back to the drafts folder. How is this truth kept? What's the truth he's holding on to now that the relationship is over?
The truth he's keeping isn't about the relationship itself. It's the personal truth of his authentic self, which was, glimpsed within that relationship. This is where the physical relic comes in.
The proof of existence.
The notes folded in my hand. He says he carries them.
Why are those specific physical notes so important compared to all the digital stuff he's constantly deleting?
Because they're the ultimate counterpoint to the coffins for truth in his phone. He doesn't carry them as some romantic relic or as part of some plan to get back together. He carries them as just proof somebody once understood the man.
So in his world of transactional fame and consuming audiences, those notes are tangible evidence that his authentic self, Daniel Bates, not D.L.B., was once seen.
Validated and genuinely responded to. They're proof that he existed outside of the script and the stunt, even if it was just for a little while. And that's essential for someone whose identity is constantly being blurred by performance.
This intense struggle for honesty and validation then culminates in this radical philosophical shift.
On track 04, Numb Acceptance. Again, driven by DJ Revuire's rhythmic compulsion.
This is a definitive turning point in the EP's emotional arc. The whole intro is a manifesto for survival that rejects all the previous ideas of seeking joy.
It's the moment he stops fighting the past and just accepts a cold, functional survival state. The manifesto is crystal clear. You don't owe the past another fucking breakdown. What's left is just living with it.
He's shifting completely from fighting for peace to just accepting the permanence of his injuries.
And the chorus defines this numb acceptance perfectly. It's a quiet truce. He says exactly what this new piece is.
Some of us ain't happy, just not falling apart. Numb acceptance, quiet kind of truce.
Peace is no longer joy or resolution or healing. It's just the hard-won, operational abscess of collapse.
And this realization becomes his new mantra: survival over sentiment.
This numbness isn't a passive surrender. It's an active, hard-won defense mechanism. He's consciously refusing to let his grief consume him, and he sees it as a necessary trade-off.
If love was the lesson and loss was the fee, then numb is the price that set me free.
The numbness is the protective price he paid for his autonomy. He's finally disconnecting the emotional wires that kept leading him back to crisis.
If we look at this in the context of the albums that are about to drop, Numb Acceptance is terrifying because it sounds like a preparation.
Yes.
This isn't the rage we're expecting in 2 days from Bipolar Scorpio. This is the quiet settling that allows the rage to be structurally contained and released on schedule.
Exactly. This functional survival mode lets him take a final inventory before his scheduled retirement. This is his exit rehearsal in progress.
He lists his remaining priorities, and they're purely logistical and protective.
I got albums to drop, I got time running out, got a dog in my lap, got these last few routes.
The pain isn't the guide anymore. It's just the constant cause he's learned to live with. He's closing the door on the guilt, folding it up, putting it back on the shelf.
And that final internal conversation is self-forgiving but so cold. You did what you felt. He is prioritizing an orderly departure over solving the deep, agonizing emotional problem.
It's the ultimate statement of pragmatic exhaustion. The emotional crisis from the first 2 tracks has been filed away. He successfully insulated himself, not by healing, but by accepting the protective barrier of numbness.
Which brings us to the reclamation tracks.
Okay, so that emotional descent takes us through paralysis, realization, and cold acceptance. But D.L.B. doesn't end on a passive note. The next phase, it pivots to an external reckoning. Community feedback.
If he's numb inside, what gives him the emotional currency to fight back?
The answer seems to be the collective intervention of 11SIX.
And that's where we pivot, starting with the communal confession of track 05, Hold It Down, produced by Hustle Harmonics. This track is huge. It features almost the entire 11SIX ecosystem.
Leona J., Murray Lux, Damar Jordan, Leanery, Zong Sky, the K1A Collective. The list is extraordinary.
They're not just collaborators here, they're acting as his witnesses.
They're stabilizing the music and his narrative while he's struggling internally. This track is the 11SIX community providing a structural defense for their founder,
ensuring that even if he collapses, the legacy is held gently.
But what's so remarkable about this track is that it's not just a support system, it's an internal critique.
Yes, it pushes back against D.L.B's own established toxic behaviors, specifically his reliance on the toxic saviorhood trope.
That narrative of using women to fix his long-standing trauma.
And Murray Lux's verse is a direct, necessary verbal slap in the face. She is not supporting his habits, she is forcing accountability.
She calls him out so fiercely. You put every wound from your childhood on her road. Like she's supposed to fix what your pops deferred.
That phrase, pops deferred, it takes the critique beyond just a failed romance. It establishes that D.L.B. was projecting generational patriarchal trauma onto his partners,
demanding they heal wounds they didn't inflict and take responsibility for emotional debts left by his father.
This is a moment of total honesty within the collective, where the community is demanding better behavior from its leader.
And this theme of painful redefinition is central to the whole track. Leanery's verse immediately clarifies the true, necessary nature of support. She's helping to redefine mercy itself.
She strips away the romantic debt, the expectation, the savior complex.
And she gives the ultimate practical definition of grace. She says, sometimes mercy just means you not alone, a lift to the crib, a ride back home, a hand on your neck saying, breathe, you here, not a contract for 20 more years.
That distinction, mercy as a lift ride home, a simple act of presence, versus mercy as a 20-year contract of emotional labor.
It's so resonant. It's practical, immediate, non-transactional support. A moment of grace, not a lifelong obligation. This lyric challenges the entire romanticized notion of mercy that D.L.B. has been wrestling with since his relationship with Mercedes even began.
And finally, the K1A chorus acts as the collective defense. They provide the emotional anchor for D.L.B. and for the listener, acknowledging the possibility of his final departure, but structuring how that should be handled.
If I miss, don't speak it loud. Just breathe me in and hold it down.
It's a shared responsibility. Handle his legacy quietly, without the drama of public mourning or canonization.
It reinforces the themes of autonomy he established in earlier tracks, like Mute the World, ensuring his exits stays on his own terms, supported by the people who understand the messy truth.
And this collective defense sets up the grand thematic core, the final act of reckoning on this leak. Track 06, Saint.
Featuring Zong Sky and produced by Joyans. If Tired was his internal collapse, Saint is his external counterattack. This is the ultimate rejection of the very same complex he feared would define him.
And thanks to Joyan's careful production, the rage is measured, but the core indictment, it's ferocious.
He screams the fundamental truth he learned. You ain't loved me, you just loved my hurt. You never loved me, you just loved my pain.
He recognizes that his suffering was consumed, monetized, and weaponized, but never actually acknowledged or respected as a human experience.
This is a direct confrontation of the audience's appetite for tragedy, and he calls out the specific methods of digital exploitation he's endured.
He details exactly how his vulnerability was packaged as content for other people. He targets that performative sympathy that lets people feel good about consuming trauma.
Every breakdown turned to your group chat quotes.
And he doesn't stop there. He targets the social media performance.
Posted mental health with my face in frame. Use my lowest moments just to boost your name.
This is a surgical takedown of trauma commodification. He is rejecting the listener and the wider culture that demands he be an open wound so they can be seen as empathetic by association. His tragedy became their social currency, and this track is him cutting off the supply.
And the track folds in the ultimate hypocrisy, industry censorship.
He notes how the label demands his vulnerability for marketing, but then regulates the natural rage that comes with that suffering. The label wants real, but they immediately tell him to cap my rage.
They want the confession, but only the sanitized, marketable version.
The kind that will playlist well on streaming services. They want the image of the wounded artist they can sell, but not the inconvenient, aggressive, honest rage that is the only authentic reaction to his suffering.
They want the aesthetic of mental health awareness without the actual messiness of mental health.
Which is why his final act of reclamation in this track is his refusal to be cleaned up for public consumption. He delivers the final comparison between what they demand and what he's willing to give.
You wanted my scars, but not the way that they bleed. I'm just breathing here with this heavy chest. You don't want me. You want a cleaned up mess.
He is choosing to leave the mess as it is. He's maintaining the integrity of his raw, messy truth rather than providing the public with the neat, marketable corpse of the saint they wanted. He insists on leaving as a human being, not a legend or a martyr.
So if we synthesize this entire arc, this journey across these 6 raw, leaked tracks, you see the artist move from exhaustion and paralysis
through structural defense and cold acceptance
to a fierce, definitive reclamation of his messy truth by refusing to be cleaned up.
This entire EP, Mercy's Return, it feels like the necessary, intimate, emotional audit D.L.B. had to complete before he could proceed with his final scheduled albums.
Right, remember, this is dropping before the scheduled high-intensity external rage of Bipolar Scorpio.
Which is in 2 days. And the existential surrender of 11 Dreams next week. Mercy's Return is the foundation. It's the unedited final archive that contextualizes the highly polished theatrical exit to come.
So the question hanging over this is context, right? When we hear the official rage of Bipolar Scorpio in 2 days, will we now recognize the numbness and exhaustion underneath it?
Will we hear the rage as an act of self-defense instead of just an artistic statement?
Absolutely. The sequencing is so critical. By leaking this intimate confession first, D.L.B. or whoever leaked this, They ensure that the audience perceives the future releases through the lens of profound vulnerability.
It makes the final act less of a performance and more of a consequence.
And crucially, we have to remember the official Mercy's Return release is still scheduled for December 19th. That's nearly a month away.
Given the intensely raw mix of these leaked tracks, we will absolutely be coming back to compare this raw leaked confession to whatever final, mastered, potentially censored product the label decides to put out.
And that's the big question, isn't it? Will the official release soften the edges of this raw truth? Will they regulate the rage and clean up the mess that he specifically insisted on leaving?
Or will D.L.B. manage to maintain the uncompromising spirit of Saint when it finally hits streaming platforms officially?
I think we have to close with the central paradox of this leak itself and connect it back to those deeply embedded fan theories around the rumored fire, the data collapse that supposedly destroyed so much of his unreleased work.
The asymmetry of the leaks.
The famous fire theory. It suggests that monumental, legally complicated projects like Angels and Demons, the supposed double album that was meant to be his magnum opus.
They were too structurally massive, too commercially sensitive to survive the data loss. They died on the big PC, or they were locked away securely. They were too valuable, too monumental to escape as audio.
But Mercy's Return, it was portable, it was small, it was mid-transfer, emotionally prioritized, maybe copied to a laptop or a USB stick.
A portable, deeply personal, internal project. It was the document of his profound isolation, not his colossal ego.
And this asymmetry defined his legacy going forward. If Angels and Demons was the colossal, commercial monster he created, a monument to his ego, it failed to escape the vault. It failed to define his ending.
But Mercy's Return, the document of his failure, his exhaustion, his desperate need for quiet acceptance, it escaped.
So the provocative thought we want to leave you with, and it's a line that's circulating among the fire truthers right now, is this. If the leak had been Angels and Demons, he would have been remembered as the monstrous architect defined by ego and complexity.
But the leak of Mercy's Return, it guaranteed D.L.B. leaves as a human, burdened by trauma, choosing the path of exhausted truth.
The narrative belongs to the artifacts that survived the collapse, and in this case, the artifact of vulnerability survived the fire, while the monument of ambition burned down.
Thank you for joining us for this raw, immediate deep dive into the exhausted confession of Mercy's Return.
We will be back in 2 days to analyze how this changes our perception of Bipolar Scorpio.
We'll see you then.